Hello, everybody, and welcome here to the Wine with Jimmy channel. I'm delighted that you have stopped by. This is a vinous wine-fueled channel designed to really help those of you studying the world of wine in fine detail. But if you are just an enthusiast, it will do you rather good as well. We are looking here at a series on sparkling wine. So this is for the Diploma Level 4, and this is the D4 section. And we are focusing on the wonderful emerging, if not emerged, England and Wales in terms of sparkling wine. There's a picture of one of the largest estates, Denbies, located in Dorking in South Surrey. So we're on part 3 here on site selection and yields. This part, along with the previous section, is available as free content on the world of YouTube. If you wish to unlock all the other videos, parts 1, 4, 5, and 6, that's only available on my e-learning portal, and you'll see the details there at the bottom, www.winewithjimmy.com. Okay, let's rock and roll looking at the site selection and then moving into yields. Got some really good data for you to help you understand England and Wales. Now, we know from the climatic video that we went through on the last time round is that we are going to need as much help as possible in terms of the conditions here. Although temperature's rising, we're still in a cool climate here, cool maritime. So grape growing at such northern latitudes above 50 degree north are going to require south-facing slopes. So that's often one of the key assessment criteria for siting a new vineyard here in the United Kingdom. So when you work with consultants here in the UK to site and prepare your land, often the aspect is very important. What are we facing? Do we have a slope? And of course, south facing is very much in demand, very much so. That gives us better exposure to UV light, to our sunlight, of course, for growth and for photosynthesis and so on. The picture here is of Denbies. Denbies, of course, situated near Box Hill in Surrey and located on a wonderful area. So it is close to the town of Dorking, and you'll find that it goes up onto wonderful slopes overlooking the landscape and Box Hill, for example. So south-facing slopes very much prized there. Next up, so we are talking about wind, which can be an issue here. So site selection should concentrate on finding sites that have good shelter from prevailing winds that are generally south to west. Strong winds and rain can hinder flowering, fruit set, and disperse heat. But of course, there's always a caveat because strong winds, or at least good airflow, is a positivity in terms of abating frost, as I'm sure you are aware. Now, former apple orchards or hop fields with aspects other than south may be preferred if they offer shelter. If there is no natural shelter from wind, it may be possible to plant trees for protection, as we have seen in Rathfinney's vineyard in Sussex. And that's what you see in this picture with their dog Dylan inspecting the windbreak. There's other artificial windbreaks that can be utilized as well. As a general rule of thumb, a 10-meter high windbreak should protect around 100 meters of vineyards. Drainage. Now, we have discussed a little bit around the geology, but in fact, I'll go through it in the next slide in much more detail. But we are not just on well-draining chalk. We know there's lots of it and pockets of it dotted around, but in fact, Britain is very famous for clay. There's a lot of clay, sandstone, limestone, all sedimentary based. And therefore, when you have the likes of clay in place, you have the ability for water to be stored in that soil, which can be an issue in terms of water logging. So we often need good drainage in place. Now, the picture you see here is a drainage machine, which is preparing the land for drainage. to make sure that when the vineyard goes in here, it has decent capability for drainage, and that's in East Sussex. So yes, we are talking about good drainage, essential to avoid regular wet soil, specifically about the root zone. And the best sites are either naturally free draining or with drainage installed. Hush Heath Vineyard in Kent have clay over sand soils with a high water retention. So they have introduced drainage every 10 meters underneath the vines. It's easier to establish drainage before the vineyard goes in, very difficult afterwards. So much better as a site selection thing. Okay, so next up, we are talking about the altitude. Now, vineyards in England range from 0 up to about 150, but really the best ones typically are at somewhere like 60 to 80, up to 100. It gets a little bit dicey above 100 meters. So you do find vineyards in those areas, and if they have other good things in place, such as windbreak, such as southerly aspect, then fine. But going too high in altitude can mean, of course, too cool, which can cause problems in terms of ripening the grapes. So typically below 150, in fact, more often it's around 100 and below. Yields. Now, some really interesting data for you. Now, the variable cool and damp climate results in very big vintage variation here in England and Wales. So you get significant difference of quality across the yields, across the years, and then you get difference in yields as well. Here's some more recent vintages looking at 2016 to 2019. It was heralded 2018 as one of the greatest vintages that England has ever had. And you can see in that year considerably more yields. We're actually talking around double the amount of yields in the southeast, around sort of 50% increase in East Anglia, almost triple in Wessex, and then around the same in the southwest, which is always commonly affected by the Gulf Stream. So real significant increases there in yield. Typically, the averages we are now looking around 5 and 6 tons per hectare. That's around 2 to 2.5 tons per acre in those years. So quite interesting, really different. Now, 2020 was quite high, 2022 as well. So we've seen some real consistent good years. And with these yields also comes the possibility for great ripeness as well. So often England has been considered really only a country making good quality whites and then excellent sparkling, and not so much for the reds. But then comes along 2018, 2020 and 2022, and the reds are really firmly on the map for quality. So do look out for those, of course. And I got some more here in terms of grape variety. Now, the low average yields are due to the marginal climate and also the increased planting of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Meunier, which of course have the problem with frost, but also they can also flower very poorly in the inclement, windy, cloudy conditions around, say, June. And this is an issue, of course. However, we want these grapes because we're making mainly sparkling wine. The average yield of tons per hectare by variety in 2018-2019, you'll see Chardonnay is very consistent. Pinot Noir, consistent, as you'll see. Here, around sort of 7.5 and 8. Wessex, around the same. Southwest, much more affected, as you know, because it is on the Gulf Stream. Cornwall, Dorset, Devon, for example. Great. Okay, so the last slide to look at here is that the yields that we typically find are the averages we saw. It's significantly lower than the expected yields in somewhere like Champagne, typically around 4 times greater in Champagne than in England. So, in other words, a producer in England can expect to make around 1/4 of the wine compared to a similar sized vineyard in Champagne. So we are talking very, very low. In 2012, the yield was exceptionally low due to the wet weather, of course. This has a major cost implication on wine production in the UK. And as a result, the wines tend to command premium and super premium prices. Okay, so there you are. The next video is talking about the geology of the Great British Isles. Please do join me for that. If you have any comments or questions or concerns, please do get in touch with the comment section below this video. And if you do find yourself in this wonderful country wanting to sort of explore the sights of vineyards and look at the grapes and feel the rain on your skin and let the wind blow through your air from the Gulf Stream, then please do get in touch and come and see me for a class, glass or bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Goodbye.